from Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Ray Kouguell reporting. Ceasefire deal reached for eastern Ukraine. The leaders of Ukraine, Russia, Germany, and France emerged from marathon talks in Belarus Thursday with a ceasefire deal aimed at ending 10 months of fighting in eastern Ukraine. The ceasefire will begin February 15th. The agreement also calls for the withdrawal of forces to create a wide buffer zone, the exchange of prisoners, and a commitment to pursue a political solution. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the parties have managed to agree on the main issues, including withdrawal of heavy weapons from the conflict zones. British Prime Minister David Cameron put the onus on Russia's leader to change his behavior in the region to make it work.
I think we should be very clear that Vladimir Putin needs to know that unless his behavior changes, the sanctions we have in place won't be altered.
Even as the ceasefire was unveiled, Ukrainian military officials said more tanks and heavy weapons had crossed into Ukrainian territory from Russia. Russia denies sending any troops or weapons across the border. The International Monetary Fund agreed on a new $17.5 billion bailout deal for Ukraine to help stabilize the country's finances. Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk says the government would carry out necessary reforms, including cuts in spending. Greece and its international creditors agreed Thursday at a European Union summit in Brussels to launch technical discussions on the debt-ridden country's demand to cut its massive debt and ease the austerity measures the lenders imposed on Athens. A Friday meeting will try to find common ground between Greece's goal to end what it sees as crippling austerity and Europe's adamant stance against changing the terms on more than $300 billion in loans. This is VOA News. Witnesses in northeastern Nigeria say at least 7 people were killed Thursday in an apparent suicide bombing in the town of Bew. Reports say a female aboard the bus may have set off the blast. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies is condemning attacks against its volunteers in Guinea, warning such violence risks the spread of Ebola. 2 volunteers were seriously beaten in western Guinea last Sunday. Lisa Schlein reports.
Attacks against Red Cross workers in Guinea are not new. There has been an average of 10 attacks per month since last March, soon after the Ebola outbreak in that country began. But this latest incident was particularly serious and scary. The Red Cross team leader for Ebola coordination and support in Geneva, Beerta Hald, has just returned from West Africa. She tells VOA the Red Cross volunteers were attacked by an angry mob while trying to provide a safe and dignified burial in the community. Hald says there is still a lot of misunderstanding about how Ebola is spread. Lisa Schlein, Geneva.
An Egyptian court released 2 Al Jazeera journalists Thursday after adjourning a trial on charges of supporting the Muslim Brotherhood until February 23rd. Cheers and applause erupted in the Cairo courtroom as the judge set bail at $33,000 for Mohammed Fahmy and no bail for his colleague Bahar Mohammed. A third Al Jazeera journalist, Australian Peter Gresta, was freed and sent home on February 1st. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon warns that Yemen is on the brink of collapse. Houthi rebels dissolved parliament and announced they'll establish a new presidential council after the resignation and house arrest of President Abdel Rab Mansour al-Hadi. VOA's Margaret Bashir has more.
The United Nations chief said Yemen's neighbors are very concerned the situation will deteriorate without the international community sending a strong signal that the country's transition must not be undermined. Mr. Ban warned that Yemen faces political, security, and humanitarian challenges.
Let me be clear. Yemen is collapsing before our eyes. We cannot stand by and watch.
The worsening security conditions prompted the United States, Britain, and France to close their Yemen embassies. Mr. Bond said the focus must be on helping Yemen quickly reestablish a legitimate government authority. Margaret Bashir, VOA News, the United Nations.
Tiger Woods says his golf is not acceptable for the professional circuit and he will not return until it is. Woods shot a career-worst 82 to miss the cut in the Phoenix Open by 12 shots. He was playing poorly when he withdrew because of tightness in his back. Woods, now 39, says the injury is not related to the back surgery he had last spring. I'm Ray Kouguell in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.